It's ding ding, two men in a ring. We put pride in your stride and a quiver in your liver. You want 'em, we've got 'em, coming to you. Loud and proud, he's the biggest, he's the baddest. It's Mr. Gavin Davis on the Gavin Davis Podcast Show.
Okay, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Gavin Davis Podcast with me and my co-host, Mr. Dave Bruff. Okay, so first of all, I just want to thank all the sponsors from Yoga BJJ to the Grappler's Gift. Make sure that you're looking up at these sponsors. Christmas coming up, get onto the Grappler's Gift website with Craig Stanton, get some gis, get some rash guards for the new year. Tonight's guest, well, very honoured to have him on. He is a third-degree black belt under Roger Gracie. He is the 2022 gi and no-gi British Open gold medalist. He is an instructor to the UK Elite Forces. He is the head coach of the British Army BJJ team. And he is the UK lead to the UK UFC gym and an ex-UFC judge. He is the owner of Andy Roberts BJJ Martial Arts and Fitness Centre in Hampshire. So me and Dave want to welcome to the podcast tonight's guest, Mr. Andy Roberts. Andy, thank you for coming on, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, mate. So what we'll do, we'll go back to the beginning of your journey. So you started in British Jiu-Jitsu, very similar to myself, and you're a second-degree black belt in British Jiu-Jitsu, yeah?
Yeah, so officially first degree still in British Jiu-Jitsu. I got my second degree through NACMAS, a different association. Yeah. Started with them sort of probably when I was 13 years old. So I did judo first from when I was at 8. That club closed down, this and that. And then in the same place I was training, I discovered Jiu-Jitsu club. So me and my mate went down about 12 years old, started training there. And then sort of probably 94, I had a sleepover with my mate and we convinced his mum to get what we saw, UFC 1 out of the video store. So we got that out, watched that, saw a guy in a gi doing jiu-jitsu, beat everyone, and thought, great, we're doing the same thing. Happy days. And yeah, from there, carried on training. And then in 98, 99, I did a seminar with Carly Gracie when he was first over to the UK. And then I was like, actually, this is the sort of style, this is the way I want to train. And so kind of tried to follow that BJJ path, but obviously at that time, hardly any internet to see where people were training, hardly any guys training anywhere. So it was kind of do a bit of judo, continue with the Brazilian, with the traditional jiu-jitsu, find guys who are doing BJJ. And I ended up going to America, to the Gracie Academy in 2000, and then eventually going back out in 2001 and getting my blue belt from Hoist.
Yeah. Dave, can you pull that photo up that I sent you, please? It's an amazing photo, everyone. For the viewers back home, I want you to have a look at this. I was so jealous looking at this photo. This is you with Grandmaster Elio Gracie. So this is this when you went over in 2001, Andy, is it?
Yeah, so this was my second trip with Ross. So yeah, the guy on the right, he was only 16 in that photo.
Right.
Huge unit for that part. But he was training with me in Sheffield.
Yeah.
I took him out on my second trip. And then it was kind of, we were out there, didn't know what was going on. And then one day, Helio's there teaching a class. And it was like, kind of, at that point, we didn't really know how honored we'd be. And yeah, he taught the class. Hoist translated for him. I can remember the class fully. We did sort of someone shot for a double leg. You kind of sprawled into a guillotine. Then we did like cross collar choke from standing, and then some guard stuff. But I remember vividly one day, like a guy asked shot at Helio if he was doing it right. He didn't think, because his partner was, it's more of a crank than a choke. And Helio's response via Hoist was he tapped, didn't he? So it's like he didn't mind whether he was tapping for choke or tapping for the crank. He got him to tap, so he was happy. And then that trip was the time I got my blue belt. Hoist on the all week was like, "You staying for the tournament? You staying for the tournament?" I was like, "When's the tournament?" It was like at the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and we were flying back Saturday night. We're like, "Oh, well, we can only do the Saturday." It's that's fine. Enter. And we were both white belts at the time. And we entered on the Friday, and I think we entered on the Thursday maybe, or literally the next class after we entered, Hoist walked in and threw us both a blue belt. And we were like, hold on, we've entered. He goes, don't worry, I've already changed the entry. So then the next day, literally, I got promoted on the Friday, turned up to fight on the Saturday, and literally got choked out in about 30 seconds. So it wasn't the best experience. But then looking back, I've still got the program of events and the competitor list. And at that tournament, Dean Lister fought, Alan Shabara fought, and Jocko Willink fought. So there was a whole lot of names fighting on that same day as me, but we didn't obviously at that time we were sort of naive to the scene and what's going on and all that. So it's a good little bit of history to look back on.
Oh, definitely, it's massive. So when you came back to the UK, just before I bring Dave in, you would probably be one of the first blue belts in the UK then, around 2001, yeah?
Yeah, so I think I did the maths. I think I was about number 35 or something in terms of blue belts, because when I was out there, we met up with Mark Walder, who was out there doing the sort of instructor training course. I think he just got his purple belt when we were out there. Then we came back, we kind of were seeking out other guys who were training. So there'd been guys gone to Brazil and got their belts, other guys who'd been to the States. And then we discovered Mauricio being in Birmingham, traveled down to train with Mauricio, and then he was like, yeah, this is my last time here, I'm going to London now. So it was there was a few guys around the north training. So Ben Popson and Neil Owen, they used to come over and train, and Neil White, go to Manchester with Colin and the guys there. So kind of that northern corridor, everyone was traveling between clubs to try and train and do stuff and just get some sort of grappling in. And like, I fought on MMA events on mats with Darren and Helen Curry. They were putting on stuff. So yeah, there was a few people up in that northern corridor doing bits right at the beginning. And then, but obviously down London, there was a few more bits happening.
Yeah. I'm going to bring Dave in, mate. Dave, you got some questions?
Yeah, hey Andy. I'm interested in how did you become head coach of the Army BJJ? Was that something you started and developed? And how did
I think it's kind of a twofold situation. One was location, just where my academy ended up being. But two, I think I was out on a night out in Sheffield, and then I saw 5 policemen failing to hold someone down. And I was like, they need help, I can help them. And so since that sort of day, I've pushed to try and get military and police training, like a form of combatives or non-combat, however you want to phrase it, that actually works. Due to the location of my academy, so I'm in North Camp in Farnborough, which is bang next to Aldershot. So when the army team, so the sports, the PT schools in Aldershot, their combat centres in Aldershot. So when they started pushing jiu-jitsu to try and become a sport and try and get recognised, I was just offering my help. I was like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll support you. I'll be a black belt you need. Do that. So I've been there since sort of the first ever class, the first seminar, just there to support the guys. And now we're I think probably 12 years in. It took us about 5 or 6 years to get it as a category 2 sport. So now they've got elite athletes fully funded. So he's getting 2 years paid as a soldier to compete in jiu-jitsu. And yeah, it's come a long way. I mean, some of the garrisons have got like there's 150 guys on camp training and doing stuff. So it's kind of just been a bit of luck, but a bit of me actually going, you guys need this, or this is going to be good for you. So I gave up quite a lot of sort of spare time to try and push that forward.
So if I can just touch on the combatives training you mentioned there, where does that come from, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or does that kind of go back to your British jiu-jitsu?
It's a combination of both. In terms of the system we're trying to push, we've got a striking element, a stand-up clinch grappling element, and a ground survival element. It takes from sort of the old school Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and a bit of sort of the traditional Jiu-Jitsu and other striking martial arts and wrestling. So it's kind of agnostic to style, really. It's more of a principle-based system, because at the end of the day, they're armed. They should be able to maintain weapons range. So that's like number one priority. It's like we're not teaching these guys or wanting to teach them to become fighters or MMA fighters or to win every sort of grapple they get into. We're trying to give them a skill set that allows them to complete their job role and not interfere with any of their sort of tactics and training or strategy that they're doing, and maintain distance so they can best utilize their weapons. But if it all does go wrong, a skill set to get back to that weapons range or to win the fight if necessary. So it's kind of taken from a lot, influenced massively by my belief in the self-defense side of grappling, that it is what you need. At the end of the day, if a soldier can strike with someone, they can use their weapon. So there's really not a massive need for striking as a soldier. If they're inside sort of the arc of that weapon, they need to be able to grapple and get back to it, or at least be able to maintain control of the weapon system. So yeah, it's kind of taken from everything, but a lot of it's the old school sort of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu philosophy, distance management and stuff.
So do you think the self-defense is missing from a lot of modern jiu-jitsu training?
Yes, massively. And I'll tell you, so the story I got told by Mauricio, Roger's dad, on why it's missing is he said that after UFC 1, when the floodgates opened to America for Brazil, all the guys would turn up and they wanted to teach jiu-jitsu as a complete art. So it'd be like, right, we'll show you the self-defense. But the guys they were going to teach to were karate academies or judo academies or wrestling academies. So they'd turn up, go, right, do you want to do the self-defense? And the karate guys go, no. We've got our self-defense bit. We just need to learn the ground. And then turn up at the judo academies, like, well, let's take that. No. We just need to learn the ground. And turn the rest, no. We just need to learn the ground. So a lot of what got passed on in those early days was just the ground side. And that's kind of where it's evolved, because these guys actually don't know the self-defense part to pass on. But from my experience, the self-defense side of it contains some massive tactical and strategic lessons that are so relevant for the sport side as well, in terms of frames and distance management and all sorts of things that really, really do transfer. So yeah, I do think it is missing. And I think the excuse people say about, oh, you just need some striking and some jiu-jitsu is irrelevant, because that they don't know what they're missing out on.
That's interesting. Oh, sorry, go on, Gav.
Can I just bump in there, please?
Yeah.
Andy, have you got a copy of Robert Drysdale's new book?
I haven't. In fact, it's. Let me have a look. Yeah,
because me and Dave have just finished reading it.
There we go. Look.
Yeah.
It's on my bookshelf. I haven't really started it yet.
Right.
I need to get into it.
He's got another book out since that one.
Yep.
And it's about the evolution of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from Elio and Carlos to Carlson Gracie to Rolls Gracie and to modern Jiu-Jitsu. And I think what you've just eclipsed in them last few comments there, I think it'll be a good read for you, mate.
Okay. Well, I'll get hold of it and have a read.
Yeah. Dave, go on, mate. Sorry.
Yeah. So that book you've got is also a terrific book, actually, Andy. But there's another book that both me and Gav have read. It's okay, by Roberto Pedreira, and there's several volumes. And I think at the back of one of those volumes, it's got the Gracie's self-defense system. And because the Gracies, before, Helio had his own and Carlos, they had their own self-defense school, didn't they? The kind of combatives. Yeah. There's also, from the literature from World War II and stuff, there was a lot of combatives generated by people doing early jiu-jitsu for soldiers.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you touched upon any of that literature in developing your combatives? Or?
Yeah, so I did a lot of research. So, like, a long story short, through like my sort of goal with teaching the Army BJJ team and trying to push them was eventually to get a combative system pushed through the Army wide. That's how we kind of kicked off. And what happened really was I started doing some stuff with 4 rifles and became a special infantry battalion. I went into the class, the CO and the 2ICO on the class, and they were like, oh yeah, jump in, we like that, come in every week. But I met some other individuals on a seminar, and they were training in their unit. And I got chatting, and nothing really happened. But then probably about 6 months later, I was cooking dinner at home, and I got a message from this individual in their unit going, "What would you teach our guys?" So I put together a plan of like, and I did a lot of research. So I said, looked at all that Fairburn Sykes, all the stuff that was out there before, all the stuff that's out there now. Put together a proposed plan of what I'd teach this particular unit. Heard nothing back for a good few months, and then got a phone call going, right, what are you doing next, first week of Feb? I was like, nothing. Right, come up, teach us for a week, and we'll go from there. And so I went up to that unit, taught them for a week. And they were like, we're going to do 8 hours a day, 5 days. I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. Like, what do you mean? I was like, you will not be able to cope with 8 hours training for 5 days a week. Oh yeah, but we're all trained operators. Like, trust me. But they booked it in 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And literally by lunchtime, day one, they were done. And then but they enjoyed what we were teaching. They saw the relevance, it fitted into their job role. After that, those guys who invited me up went on some symposiums in sort of Europe and LA with similar units from Europe and America. And even though I hadn't had access to what they were teaching, the programs kind of married up and mirrored each other. So they're happy with what I'd gone, and then I managed to get sort of that gig, which has now led to what we're doing with the wider army now. Obviously, we don't teach as much. The wider army program is, I think, something like 40 moves that we plan out, train. Again, it's mainly on distance management and stuff. There's no fancy stuff, and it's it's principle based. So it's not like when I learned traditional jiu-jitsu and Japanese jiu-jitsu and stuff, it was like, if they throw this punch, this is how you would defend. If you throw this punch, this is how you would defend. So you're learning thousands of techniques because you're trying to figure out which technique for which scenario. So what we've done is that there's a small bundle of techniques which are applicable across multiple scenarios, and we're finding that's the best approach, and that's what kind of working. So yeah, answer your question, we've looked through a lot of stuff and literature that's been out there and around, and I even got I found on eBay, someone sent me a link to a book on eBay that is here. This is okay. So this book is a 1907 edition of jiu-jitsu as practiced in Japan by Yuan Nishi, can't find him, but he was the jiu-jitsu instructor to the PT school in Aldershot in sort of 1911. So I'm trying to bring in the stuff you see in that book's gold, and it mirrors some of the stuff we're doing now, but obviously there's refinements and stuff that's gone on. So we've done a lot of research and pushed in. So it's not just taking what the Grace is saying gospel and go. There's still a lot of sort of evolution and stuff going on, and with sort of operational feedback from the guys.
I'll send you an email after this, Andy, with an article on Yuneshi that I wrote. Because he did quite a lot of work with the military. Yeah, I'll follow up with an email.
Yeah.
I've got some stuff you might be interested in.
Yeah, definitely.
What I was going to say was, what do you feel is missing then from BJJ today, apart from the self-defense that you've already spoke about?
I don't know. So I'm in every single camp. I love sport BJJ. I love the way it's going. I love competing in jiu-jitsu. And I love the self-defense side. And I love that. What I would say is, I think, so what's missing is that holistic approach. Yeah. At the moment, you've got said individual, I'm going to sell my DVD, and this is how I do it, and this is what you're going to buy. And so the people who buy that, that's gospel. But then if you go back to the roots of maybe how that individual trained, they're training more holistic. It's just they've seen a gap in the market and they want to sell a DVD. So as I look at the Gracie Academy now, and it's all like, we do Helio Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, self-defense orientated. This is the way it's meant to be. When I was at the Gracie Academy in 2000, 2001, and even if you look at the articles when it first opened, the only way you could learn the self-defense was by taking private lessons. So you paid. So the group classes I went into, we made learn a bit of self-defense, like one technique, take down something. That's all ground stuff. It's exactly the same as how we train now, and how most clubs train now. It's just people are looking for their niche, their USP to sell their academy, but at the root core, it's the same. It's just this optic from the outside that changes. And so we used to train. You train in the gi, do what would look like sport jiu-jitsu. Then you take the gi jackets off, you do a bit of no gi, and then you start slapping each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's how it should be.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because reading Drysdale's book, going back into the 70s and 80s, they used to do, a lot of hand slapping to make sure that they weren't open. And I noticed in your academy, I noticed a video you put online the other week where there's a female doing up kicks and you're holding the pads.
Yeah.
And that more now links into more of an MMA type of environment gym than what we would class as a BJJ gym.
Yeah.
There's not many BJJ gi classes or no gi classes that would be seen doing much of that.
Yeah, and that's what's missing, because one, you're selling disservice. Like every sports BJJ gym out there will market themselves as self-defense. And it's like, really, like if someone is stood over you, holding your legs, you need to know how to deal with it. You're not re-guarding, you're not framing. You've got to kick them in the head, create that distance, get back to your feet. You need to be on your feet. Just because, like, as I saw it, like jiu-jitsu, the one thing that separates like BJJ from every other grappling art is the fact that we can fight off our back. Yeah, the tournament rules don't stop us fighting from our back. We're not going to lose by pin. So we've developed this lovely system of guard playing. And as Chris Houter says, it's seductive. It's nice. You lie on your back, you chill, but it's not where you want to be. You always want to be on top. You want to, in a self-defense situation, you want to be back on your feet. So if we're not training this sort of thing, then you're not selling. If you just want to do sport, great, but you can't say self-defense, and that's the danger. That's what I'm talking about. Like that holistic approach. Even Hickson's like, if you can't defend the punch, you shouldn't be a blue belt. And like, I don't care if you don't do self-defense past blue belt, but if you can get to your blue belt knowing how not to get punched in the head and how best to get back to your feet safely, then happy. It's like, that's not a problem, but don't lose the reality of what jiu-jitsu is. And it goes back to the traditional side. Jiu-jitsu has always been that art that is full on fighting. The guys we learn from, or the Liverpool doormen, like my instructors, both doormen up in town, they fought, and like not out of choice, but they were tough guys. They fought and they used techniques that work. And that's what we need to include. Otherwise, it's no longer martial arts. It's just an art or a sport. And we have to be, I think jiu-jitsu is in danger of losing that. We still need to keep that fighting and that martial element of it.
Yeah. So you're still competing, mate. I know, as I say, 2002, 2022, you had a good year. You were gold medalist, gi and no gi. How often are you rolling out, and how's your training going? Not so much now before Christmas, because everyone seems to ease off a little bit. But
I'm trying
in general, do you train 3-4 times a week or daily or what?
So in general, if I'm feeling good, I mean, I'm 43 now. I'm still fat, but it's like I would say 3-4 times a week sparring. When I'm teaching, I'm trying to drill and do the technique. I'm not a massive fan of drilling. It's like learn a technique, stick it into specific sparring, then do some sparring. But probably when I'm running up to a competition like Polaris or like we're going to do the Euros in January. So I'm trying to push myself to 4 sort of sparring sessions a week. Little bit of weights, probably weights twice a week. I find if I don't do weights, I just start breaking. So I'm not pushing myself on the weights. It's just to sort of maintain and keep everything firing at how it should be. But I find that works. So 4 times a week, with all the teaching and other stuff, like any more than that, I'll just start breaking down. But yeah, a couple of times not light weights, decent weights, but all over body program, enough that I'm not burnt out. And then 4 decent sparring sessions a week.
Yeah, I've eased off with the amount of days I'm training at the moment. I'm finding that the last couple of comps I've done, I felt actually a bit better. I feel like I've gone in without an injury or without being
Yeah.
broken. So I think as you get older, it does help.
Oh no, definitely. And something like I'll do weights when I'm doing the weight sessions. I'll do them in the morning and then spar in the evening. So then I still get an extra rest day rather than do them on a day I would be resting. So I'll get a full day of rest rather than sort of weights, spar, weight, spar, weight, spar, and so on. So yeah, though it definitely recovery is the thing that takes its toll when you get older, I reckon.
Yeah, yeah. Dave, I'll hand it back over to you, mate.
So if you were giving advice to somebody looking to take up martial arts, what would be your top 3 bits of advice you would give?
I think number one, you got to be so comfortable in the environment you're going to train in. So try many academies, try multiple places, find some way where the coach fits with sort of what you want and you feel comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable in that environment, then you're not going to get much out of it. You're going to end up leaving. You're going to it won't be sort of what you're after. Second, make sure you know why you're training. Like if you're training just for fitness or a bit of fun, then it doesn't really matter what you're going to train. If you're training with that thought process of self-defense, make sure what you're training is pressure tested, is kind of that sparring element is still there. If you're training for competition, obviously you got to make sure make sure the instructor is a great competitor. Make sure that he's producing competitors within his gym. So if you want to be like the next world champion Thai boxer, turn up to that gym who's producing those Thai boxing champions, because as we all know, world champions don't necessarily make amazing coaches. It's the guys you look at. So you got to look at who they're coaching, who they're bringing up. But yeah, top 3 would be. I reckon the first thing is find that comfortable gym that you're happy with, that you're going to turn up week in week out and train. But yeah.
So in terms of that, then if we just focus on jiu-jitsu, who would your Mount Rushmore of jiu-jitsu practitioners be? Your top. Who do you hold up there?
I'll go with sort of the godfather of UK Jiu-Jitsu and UK BJJ, and an unsung hero because his son's so famous, but Mauricio Gomez, like Roger's father, the stories I've heard, not from guys close, but other people who've come over to train, have done stuff, and the stories I've been told about Mauricio from back in the day, and then stuff that he's told me, like he was in the first organised Vale Tudo matches when it was Luta Livre versus BJJ back in Brazil. So he's been at the forefront. He's obviously married a Gracie Rogers mother, but he was within that Gracie family, but he was able to he can transcend the stories that come from certain factions of the Gracie family, so that sort of family bias stuff. Mauricio gives you the God honest truth, and he's beaten in his day. He was like undefeated. He beat the best guys who were there, and the pièce de résistance, he pulled guard in a wrestling tournament. So that's all I have to say. The guy's a legend, and he has to sit there and sort of. It's an unsung hero, obviously, because his son's so good that he's there. So obviously, number 1 would be, I think, Mauricio. 2 would have to be Roger. He has achieved what everyone achieved. He submitted everyone in ADCC, so won that title all by submissions, both his weight and the absolute. Amazing gi career. Went on to win the ONE FC sort of MMA championship and stuff. And yeah, he's a big guy, but everyone you speak to who he's beaten, it was like it's all technique. And what I've observed and come to conclusion, I've seen the interviews with other black belts who've gone, like, Roger must have a secret and all this. But what I see is these guys get to black belt and it's like, how do I win a competition? Like, get strong, become so athletic. Like, it's all physicality because I got my black belt. Whereas Roger's consistently training technique, consistently getting technically better. And I've seen him spar with world champions and just left them like lost for words on the mat, like flabbergasted. I've seen a guy who 2 months later won ADCC, submitted everyone again, but just like literally rocking on the side of the mat, not understanding what Roger had just done to him. And the stories that come out of Brazil when he was like a younger kid and all that, that world champions go and train and they'd be crying in the changing rooms. And even recently, like, okay, he retired, he's a year younger than me, so he's 42. A current world champion came over and trained at his academy and again was left in tears at the end of the match. And it's like that he's just that good. And everyone would come, it's his size, but he never fought. He was never the ultra heavy. He was always super heavy. So there were always guys bigger than him to beat. So we go Mauricio, Roger. Obviously, can we like do a carving of like Elio and Carlos together? Merge them into one on Mount Rushmore, because again, like Carlos,
who would you say, a quick question on that, who would you say was more important for jiu-jitsu, Elio or Carlos?
Carlos.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Interesting. Okay, everyone will have a different argument on it, but this is an interesting debate, really.
In my opinion, what I've seen and what I've heard from being, like, as I say, like I started with Hoist, so I got all the Helio narrative from Horian and all that side. Then going to sort of Rogers and stuff, he's Carlos's direct grandson, so we get that narrative as well. And obviously his mother, Hayla, wrote the book on Carlos. What I would say, like Carlos started it. There's no doubt, no one can argue that Carlos brought jiu-jitsu to the forefront. It's the first Gracie Academy, all that. Carlos did it. You can read between the lines in some of the Helio stories, but what I heard again from Mauricio is that Helio, every Friday they would have a big family meal, and Helio would go to Carlos and ask for his advice on techniques and all sorts of stuff. So I think Carlos will always be the patriarch of the family. Obviously, he wasn't around because he died, 93, when UFC started.
Yeah.
So then it's America, you got to market things, and that's the way things have to be marketed to sell the name. So I would say Carlos is at the forefront. I think Helio did a hell of a lot. But I mean, there's a massive difference in age between the two and all sorts. So I would put them together, but Carlos number one on top of that. And then my last one.
Yeah.
Let me think. I say me now. I don't know really. Are
you a Hickson man?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
And I think he's amazing. He just I think so for the MMA side of things and what he did. Yeah, it was stick Hickson on there. And again, that's the amazing thing. It's like Mauricio asked Hickson when Roger decided, I think it was about 14, that he wanted to pursue jiu-jitsu full time. Mauricio asked him, was like, what would you do to make Roger better? And Mauricio, Hickson, was like, get him to teach. So get him to teach jiu-jitsu. But Mauricio was over in the UK at that time. So when he brought Roger over, Roger couldn't really speak English or teach the classes. So Mauricio was like, right, stand with me at the front of the class, watch the class and tell me all the mistakes that all the guys are making. So when they do King of the Hill guard passing, they'll be like, Roger, tell me what they're doing, tell me what they're doing wrong. So you got there a young kid looking and watching and analysing everyone's mistakes. So it's learning by osmosis as well as doing it. So yeah, I think Hickson embodies what I see jiu-jitsu as. It's got that MMA side and still got that sporting side. Again, a little bit mystique added, 400 no losses and stuff, but I would go that. I think we'll go Mauricio, Roger, Hickson, and then a combination. Well, actually, I said Carlos up there.
Yeah, see, I love Hickson, but I personally think that Hoist did more for jiu-jitsu than what Hickson did.
Definitely.
With the explosion of it, and actually, Hoist had 4 fights in one night, UFC 3. And obviously what happened UFC 1, UFC 4.
Yeah.
So, Hickson...
Was that Hoist's decision or was that Horian's decision?
It didn't matter. He still had to get in there and fight, didn't he?
Yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Horian could have been making whatever deals around the back he was, but, Hoist was the small one in the fight, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, 100%. No, 100%.
But as I say, Hickson, like everyone talks about Hickson from a mystique point of view. But I think that was Hickson, like he was 12-0, I think, or 13-0.
Yeah.
I think Heist actually had a lot more fights than him and a lot more exposure to Heist because of what happened with the UFC.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think they were holding Hickson in reserve just in case it went wrong. And I think Hoist did amazing. There's no and I love Hoist to bits. And I trained with him actually early in the summer this year. And we did some good stuff, and he's amazing. I reckon the thing is, a lot of jiu-jitsu guys could have done that. I think it was very difficult I don't think, I don't like it. I think jiu-jitsu at that night was exposed the lack of grappling, the lack of sort of, it exposed the reality of martial arts, that actually if someone grabs hold of you, you have no idea what to do. So I'm not sure whether it would have mattered too much who they put in there. But as you say, having 3 fights in a night, guys who are trying to bite your ears, try doing anything, then it's a massive environment, a massive stage to come out and do that. And like as I say, all through 1, 2, 3, 3 couldn't come out for the final, but then come back in 4 with that massive fight with Dan Severn. It's like, you can't knock or take any credit away from Hoist and what he's done. And I think there's a lot of guys, like obviously with only four guys to take on Mount Rushmore, it's difficult to do.
It's very difficult. You've done well. You've done well. That's why I was throwing the names at you, because I think with Hoist, I think he was the best representative for jiu-jitsu, because Hoist will probably be the first to tell you Hickson would choke Hoist out 10 times in like one roll. And then you obviously had the Alliance gym down in Brazil where there was numerous champions in that gym that could have gone in the UFC and done what Hoist did. But Hoist was the man that they picked. He was the small 176 pounds or whatever he was. And I think the way he executed jiu-jitsu and put jiu-jitsu forward was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, definitely. Agreed. I think, you can't argue with that fact. And what I can point out is that a lot of people have forgotten the lessons that are learned on that night in 93. So now, I think the last 10 years, it started creeping back, this nonsense within martial arts. And then I had people telling me how the rules favoured Hoist. It's like, how could the rules favour anybody? There were no rules.
I saw your post on Facebook.
It's ridiculous, mate.
Yeah. Ridiculous. I commented about Ken Shamrock's wrestling boots. It's ridiculous, because you've still got the debate today after what Hoist did to Art Jemison, right? And what Randy Couture did to James Toney. You've still got the debate that people think that Tyson Fury can get in an octagon, right? With these UFC heavyweights, and they think that he's got a chance.
Yeah, we can't even win a boxing match, so can he?
No.
So,
But if John Jones grabbed hold of him, the people haven't got an idea.
It's because their bubbles are burst. It's the same, like, what is it? There's a great meme about 90% of adult males are going to win a street fight because they see red. Yeah. And it's like, bro, I see red, the body's going to hit the floor. It's like, it's not going to happen, bro. Like, no matter how much you believe that, it's not going to happen. And that UFC 1, the Randy fight, they just showcased it perfectly, and people will always find an excuse. So the UFC 1 excuses are the best. Like, rules favoring Hoist, that's ridiculous. And then it was like, Overeem picked all the opponents. It was like, hold on, they asked, I can't remember that. Not Overeem. K1 kickboxer, Dutch guy, Ernesto Hoost.
Gerard Gordeau.
No, Hoost. They asked Ernesto Hoost.
Hoost.
To fight in UFC 1, and he turned it down. So it's like they're not picking; they're going for the best guys. It's down to them to accept the fight. So they got the guys who fought, and Hoist still did the job. But arguing that it was a fix, it's like, it can't be. It's on videotape, and then Hoist used his belt. It's like, watch the video. Like, I think he posted a YouTube an interview with Bill Wallace and Karate Guy, the guy who did the jiu-jitsu tournament recently and just stood up and walked away. Jesse and Camp. Yeah. So posted their little interview, and Bill Wallace is like, yeah, I had this guy from the Gracies like telling me what to say. I was like, yeah, because you don't know jiu-jitsu, so he's just telling you what Hoist is doing. But it's like, yeah, Ken Shamrock got annoyed because Hoist used his belt. I was like, did he? So I went back YouTube at UFC 1. I was like, where's the belt? It's like it's just a rear naked choke. There's no belt involved whatsoever. And it's like it's evidence. So you can make up or you can push a narrative that makes it a bit of a Gracie sort of one-sided bias thing. And it was made to push jiu-jitsu. But there was no fairer sort of rule set or any other way to do it. Everyone was even playing on an even keel, even playing fields. And jiu-jitsu came up out on top. And no matter who you put in there, jiu-jitsu would have still come out on top at that time.
I agree.
Everyone needs to know jiu-jitsu or grappling. They need to learn some sort of grappling to win. And so it's done its job.
I totally agree with everything you've said there, mate. Everything. Dave, what we're going to do, we're going to finish with a word association game for Andy, okay? Is there anything that you want to just ask Andy before we start hitting that?
No, go for it.
Right, okay, so 3 or 4 words, or if you've got a little story on them, that's fine, but 3 or 4 words. I'm going to give you the person. You've already mentioned a few of them. And 3 or 4 words, first thing that come to your head. Roger Gracie.
Genius.
Kev Capel.
Top lad. That was brilliant. Like, me and Kev, I met Kev on the way back from the first ever Europeans in 2004. Blue belt team and we've been friends ever since. So yeah, good lad.
Yeah, he's one of the nicest lads in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, definitely.
Mauricio Gomez.
True. Like when people throw the word legend around too many times, and this guy is a living legend. Heart of gold. Will do anything and everything for jiu-jitsu and pushes it. And mate, he had did you hear about his heart attack recently?
Yeah.
So that was a 99% closure of his artery. And jiu-jitsu, his heart was so strong from jiu-jitsu that he survived. He's got no damage to his heart, so he's back on the mats, fully fit. And he's the guy you need to get on here and just empty his brain of all the jiu-jitsu knowledge and get it recorded.
Well, it's funny you've said that because I've already been in touch with Natalie, his wife, and Natalie's agreed that her and Mauricio are going to come on after Christmas.
Nice.
We want to talk to Mauricio about the history, about what you were saying earlier about going back to Brazil when he was growing up and getting into his jiu-jitsu and training with Carlson and Rolls Gracie and stuff like that. And obviously after Rolls passing away in 82, I don't know if he went with Hickson then, because apparently a lot of them went with Hickson. So
what I think, obviously he'll be able to tell you anything, but I know. So you see the old photos there's a few black and white photos running around of Mauricio and Holes together. And what Mauricio said that he just completed a 6-month instructor training program under Holes, and him and Holes are going to go and open an academy together.
Right.
Those photos of them portrait, they're basically filmed or taking photos of all the self-defense syllabus.
Yeah.
They've lost those photos, apart from the ones that are just the portraits. But obviously then he passed away in the accident. And then I think Holes' wife passed on the academy to Carlos Jr. and obviously Gracie Barr. So they all kind of went to that sort of lineage.
Yeah. So it'll be really good to get him on and interesting to get him on and see what Mauricio says. But as I say, Natalie said that they're happy to come on after Christmas,
nice.
So that'll be good.
Yeah, you might need to extend it to about 4 hours though.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do that. Hickson Gracie.
Probably, I think Choke was probably one of my biggest inspirations. Actually, that video, obviously after the UFCs, that Choke video, when you want to show someone what jiu-jitsu is about and what it really encompasses, the Choke video is amazing.
Have you seen that, Dave?
No.
I'll send you the. It's a old school documentary of Hickson Gracie when he started fighting in Pride. It's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah. Mr. Yoga BJJ, Sebastian Brush.
I know Sebastian.
Yeah. Great lad.
I like Sebastian. He's a crazy guy. He's managed to find a niche within a niche, which I'm super impressed with. Good jiu-jitsu, great jiu-jitsu, good yoga. We've got one of my guys, Adam, who's a full instructor and now works for yoga for BJJ as well. So I do think it's a missing part of jiu-jitsu in terms of getting the masculine sort of fighting fraternity doing some stretching. He's definitely managed to sort of bridge that gap away from hippie, chilled out, omming and meditation yoga to something that's actually useful for guys. So he's awesome, dude.
Yeah, he came on and I came down to your gym to train with him. Really, really good seminar he put on. Really good.
Yeah, no, he's good, definitely.
So for the viewers out there listening, and where can people train with you? Tell them about your academy and you being on social media and that if people want to hook you up.
Yeah, so my main academy is in North Camp, Farnborough, so on the Surrey-Hampshire border, right by Aldershot. And then Instagram at Andy Roberts BJJ, same for Facebook. Anyone wants to visit, and there's no charge for visitors and turning up. I'm not going to make any profit out of guys who just pop in and out. We've got a massive sort of military clientele as well, because obviously the location, but a lot of police training and stuff. And we're a safe environment. We cater for everything. So if you want to come and do self-defense, you'll get that. If you want to come and do competition stuff, we've got 5-6 guys going out to the Euros in January. So we try and push both sides of the coin as best we can.
Yeah, it's a real good setup there. You've got fair play, really good.
Cool.
Yeah. Dave, any closing words for Andy, mate?
Just it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Andy. Thanks very much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, Andy, thank you very much. I'll catch you soon. Probably catch you at the Inters or something like that, or probably before that. Thanks for coming on, mate. Any closing words for the viewers?
No, I said pleasure to be out there. And then all I would say is, if you're going to train jiu-jitsu, try and get a little bit of exposure to self-defense. You don't have to train it, you don't have to do it, you don't have to like it, but just at least expose yourself to what it's all about.
Okay, Andy, thanks for your time, mate. It's been a
Cheers,
pleasure.
mate. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.